Hello and welcome back, guys. We are really starting to push through the episodes now. Now, as I said, this next one is going to be probably the one that needs the most attention. I'm going to try to explain it as much as I possibly can. Sort of why I did the uniforms episode before the gun, because essentially it's the same code. It's just there's more sort of variables to work with when working with the weapons files. So in this one, I'm just going to be changing out a few things to fit CSAT, but essentially I'm just going to be sort of basing my CSAT weapon class off a pre-made AK 74, or it might even be the AK 103, and just probably change out a few things. I'm not going to go too far into it. I'll let you guys play around with that. So anyway, essentially, let's get into this. Just finished up the uniforms. As I said off screen, I was going to go through and just make sure that I've changed out all of my class names and vests and all of that. I just sort of showed you an example and let you guys sort of go through and work it out yourselves after that. Hopefully I gave you enough information. So that's the CSAT uniforms done. Now we are going to have a look in the weapons folder. Now this is going to be a bit daunting, but hopefully you've learnt enough, as I said, from the last one, that this should make some sense. So as I said, I'm going to be using the AKs as a base for this. We're not going to make a new file like we did with uniforms. I'm just going to be sticking to the AK, and we're just going to alter a couple of things just to show you guys how to customize it. As you can see in this folder, it's not over expansive. These are literally just templates of, very common weapons that we would use. So you've got the ARs, you've got those new Russian VHS, and all the Zastava stuff, which is like different versions of essentially the Kalashnikov platform. Just changed out with stuff like 5.56 and stuff. Anyway, it's a bit crazy. But anyway, we're going to start with weapons AK. But in the meantime, as I open this, we're going to go have a look at the different variables that are going to be needed to make this work in the assigned gear. So essentially everything between, let's have a look, everything between line 11 and line 15 has to do with firearms and the variables we can give them. As you would have seen in the last episode, we actually stuffed this back up and I didn't leave a 0 there. Always have a numeral for these ones. So anyway, let's get straight to it. Quickly, we go down to line 200 and something. Bear with me. Here it is. Well, there you go, 200. And make sure that the right file for the weapon family that we want to use is associated. So as I said before, if you have a look into this folder, you see that there's AK, AR, VHS, Zastava. We want AK. So it's already there. It's already good to go. Let's have a look at the weapons file. Again, to tidy this up and so that we're only using one of the cases, remember again, cases, use one of the cases at a time. Come up to edit, code folding, fold level 2. All right, here you can see we've got some templates for a few of the weapons in here. Now, for the sake of this mission and for doing things a little different, it looks like there's been something different written here. That shouldn't be. Anyway, oh no, that's right. We're actually looking at the AK-103. That's okay. Why does that one say that AK-103 is a NEATCO? Maybe I stuffed up here. Let's have a look. Nope, that's definitely the one we want. Okay, so I'm going to be working off the platform, the AK-103 Zenitco, which is the one with the rails. So I want this case, so we're going to copy that and move it over to the assigned gear. Remember, variant. So this is the case. AK-103 Zenitco, which is the 7.62 railed AK. Let's go back into this specific class. I'll open it up with its arrow here. Now let's go through a few things. Even though this is laid out with like sort of headers and labels, just to make you guys understand a bit more. I'll just go through them. So this first part where it says weaponry, that is literally the class names for the base firearms we're going to be using. So you'll see there's multiple different arrays and shit here, which I can go into after with some of the weapons. But essentially you have your base rifle, which is, in this case, the AK-103. You have the GL version of it. All right. You have the rifle scoped, which is usually almost 99% of the time you use the same class name as the base rifle. This is just one that will have, let's say everybody's got iron sights. If you have a scoped rifleman class selected, he'll be like the only dude with a scope on his gun. Next one is the carbine. This is usually used for helo pilots and tank crew. Next one is the SMG, which I believe is used. It's used somewhere. I just can't remember where. Pistol, that's pretty straightforward. Auto rifle, so what is going to be the suppression weapon of this group. At the moment, I've actually got it set to the AK-103. This is one that we're actually going to be changing. MMG, pretty straightforward. It's the machine gun rifle. Shoddy, that's pretty straightforward. Then you have your DMR. In this case is a SVD, bolt rifle, and AM rifle. They're both sniper rifles, but there is a difference. Bolt rifle just uses essentially a bolt action rifle with nothing special with the rounds or anything like that. In this case, it's using a T5000. AM rifle is the sniper rifle that is, it's usually automatic. 2, it has very large rounds. So like 50 cal, anything armor piercing, that's the big boy there. So with this, we move on to the ammunition side of things. Now this is quite literally laid out exactly the same as weaponry, but lines up for the ammunition types for those weapons. So as you can see here, you've got rifle mag, tracer mag, subsonic mag. It's just all the same thing, just laid out for the rifles. Couple of little things in here that are different though. This was brought in because of the difference between Russian and American ammo types and counts. We have these numbers here called the AR mag count, AR box mag count. Now, this is quite literally, so AR mag count will be how many mags are given to the AR player, and the box is how many it's going to put into the resupply boxes. A good rule here is whatever you use for the American stuff with AR, which is usually around 200 rounds. I know there's like 100 round versions. There's even 50 round bags for stuff like the SAW. But essentially, whatever you have for the Americans, double it for Russians. Most Russian weapons don't have that much ammo in the initial mags. I think the highest for like RPKs is a 75. And then you've got the Americans who have 200 round boxes. Okay, so just remember that as a bit of a rule. Same thing goes with MGs. Just do something that makes sense. So if you've got like a 50 round MG, just double it up from the 1. So then you have like 100 rounds, all of that. Pretty straightforward. And then you also have like extra ammo types for the GL. Then you have your FAC smokes, which are usually colored. Your throwables, which are your grenades. You know, it's all pretty self-explanatory. Usually the first couple of letters in a variable will tell you. So now, next one, pretty important one, the attachments for weapons. This is where it gets a bit tricky. So at the moment, general attachments pretty much does everything for the base AK-103 rifle, or any of the cases base rifles will come under general attachments. So like obviously your base rifle, your grenade launcher, I think even sometimes the carbine uses this, and it's essentially the class name for the type of scope for the first one. So you got your reflex, your scoped, muzzle, suppressor, gun light, AR, and grip. This is all for just the general base rifle. And if we come back to the assigned gear, you can see all of these variables here. So you've got scopes, muzzles, pointers, grips, and the numbers that associate with them. So coming back to weapons AK, as you can see, so a scoped, which has a long range 1P29 scope, if we come back to assign gear, what you'd have to do is for 2 optic, change this to a number 2, and then you would get that scope on those rifles. And essentially this same format works for every other thing. It is gapped here to somewhat give you a bit of a guide. So you've got your automatic rifle here, you've got your MG here, you've got your marksman here, bolt rifles, which most of the time have their own stuff, and you can go quite nuts with it. I'm going to show you guys in testing, we're going to be swapping over one of these things just to show you the difference. But for now, I am going to be swapping out one weapon, and that's going to be the AR. So if I come back up to the top here and I find the auto rifle, I want to swap this out for whatever the base CSAT auto rifle was. I can't exactly remember what it's called, but I remember what it looks like. I think it's the Israeli auto rifle. I can't remember what it's called, but we're going to go find it and we're going to replace it. And we're also going to replace the ammo for it. So let's open up ArmA. I've been copying stuff over, so that's why this guy looks a bit weird. If I jump out, you see, it just goes back to normal. So we'll open up the BI Virtual Arsenal. Just while that's loading up. Okay, now I want to change out the AR. So I'm going into rifle, I'm going to sort by mod, and it was just the base AR. Here it is, the Negev. Don't know why I forgot that. So the Negev is going to be the weapon of choice for the AR. Just remember, as I was saying before about box counts, I think this uses a 150 round box. So we might have to do something a bit different there. I also want to have an individual scope for this as well. So let's have a look here. We're sort of Russian based, so I reckon if I use one of these, that's going to look pretty cool. Bit of a mix and match. Don't need to put a bipod on it, obviously. I'm pretty sure that the attachments are going to work fine, but for the sake of this tutorial, I will change out the attachment for something else maybe. Let's just say a... Actually, no, I don't even think we're going to use those sorts of attachments. We're definitely not going to be using muzzles. Another thing is you need to add some ammo. We obviously need the ammo for this gun, which is 150 round box 7.62. This isn't going to quite cut it. I have to grab a backpack to put 2 mags in. So one of the standard, one of the tracer, because we have that in the scripts. Alright, I'll export this now. I already have my untitled thing here, paste it. As you can see, compared to when we were just doing uniforms, there's obviously a lot more here. So, anywho, this add weapon, this is the class name of the gun. I want to copy this. Let's go back to AK where the auto rifle is. I'm going to paste it here, give it a save. Go back to the untitled. Now I want just the standard box for it. Now we had it in the backpack and we also had one in the vest, but just for clarity, I'll just use the ones that we put into the backpack that are right here. So here's the standard ammunition, which is the 7.62 box, 150 round. So now we'll move down to ammunition. Where's the AR? Here it is. Paste it in. Now this doesn't have a subsonic round for this gun, so all I'm going to do is just replace it with the standard. That's usually what I do if there isn't a subsonic round. Now we also need the tracer box, so I'm going to grab that. So you'll get used to class names, you'll slowly get the hang of them. So 150 round 7.62 by 54 box tracer. And I will chuck that in the auto tracer mag and save it. Now, because these are 150 round boxes, I'm actually going to be halving these numbers because it's pretty close to the 200 round. Plus it's a 762. So AR mag count 2, and let's change the 10 to a, let's say 6, just because it's under that 200. So instead of half, I'm just going to use 6. Now, that's pretty much how you swap out a gun. Now we're just going to change the basic scope for this, which was, if we go to this, add primary weapon. Now I remember it was the 1P87. This is where it gets a bit tricky and where you have to do this so many times before you get familiar. So if I go back up to the weapon, yep, the scope is a 1P87. So most of the time, if the mod is made by people that aren't retarded, they'll have the name in the class there somewhere. So 1P87 by RHS, that's what we wanted. And I'm just going to chuck it into the auto rifleman attachment reflex, because this isn't a ranged scope. It's just a short range scope. Now, that's looking pretty good. That's how you swap out weapons. Pretty simple. Now we're going to go back to the assign gear and give it a save if she's right up the top. And I wanted to use the reflex scope, so I'm going to be putting this to number 1. Didn't really have muzzles, I think, but for the sake of it, I'll put a number 1 in there, because this is RHS and they usually do have them. Now, I want to chuck on lights instead of pointers. So, actually no, we're going to go with none, because it's a daytime mission. We don't need any of that shit. Grips, I'm going to make true, because who doesn't like a grip? And hit save. And that's it. I know, I made this out to look like it was a fucking hard thing to do, but I've pretty much given you like the bare bones example of swapping out weapons. I'm not going to go too deep into it. This is just something that comes with being associated with the framework. You can make entirely new weapons classes as long as they make sense. Like you could just go absolutely nuts with it. So I've just shown you one example with swapping out one weapon type. We are going to test it and go through it in a further episode, but essentially that's it. The only other thing that we do with weapon types, similar to what we did in the uniform class, where we had to swap out the radios, with the weapon types, you also have to swap out the launchers. Now, if we open up the file, there's a file up the top here that says launchers. Let's open it up. We'll do some code folding for the sake of keeping everything simple to look at. As you can see here, there are many different cases for many different types of, launches and stuff. But for our case, I'm just going to use the Russian MSV ones because that's pretty cool. Here we go, and then just paste it. So that's essentially weapons, guys. It's not that hard. It's almost identical to dealing with uniforms. Just a couple of little changes here and there. Hope you learnt something from this. Next episode, we're going to be going through how to write up the briefing for a mission. Okay, guys, I'll see you over there.